remember that when things get rough, you can always leave over there and come here to Sankofa Books and sit down and relax. Because this is the liberation space and the liberation zone.
Fall special event series. And so just a little housekeeping. If you have a cell phone, you know what to do. Vibrate or off, please. Because you know this is Sankofa Video and Books, so we're doing some taping here. So let us know if you don't want your face shown on the video, so we can out you off. So housekeeping: turn off your cell phones or turn them on vibrate, please. Also, we want you to please forgive us for the construction that's going on. We're really looking forward to making the place better for the fall and the upcoming years. We're looking forward to having a cafe so that, you know, when we come here for our great events, we can also serve you properly. So tonight we do have some small and light refreshments, so please feel free to partake. They are near the door. What else? Brothers, can they take pictures? Yes. Yes, you can take pictures of me. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, website. Please, if you want more information about what's happening here at Sankofa, www.sankofa.com. And if you're interested in finding out about some of the events that are happening, please email us at sankofaevent, one word, at yahoo.com. That's sankofaevent@yahoo.com, and we will respond and let you know what's happening, what's going on. Also in the back, we have a list. If you will please sign the list and place your email address or your information so that we can contact you when we're having more events such as this, and we can let you know, and you can make sure to be in the house and tell somebody else and bring somebody else. So enough of the housekeeping. We are ready to get started. And so tonight we have some very, very, very special guests, as you know. I'm just going to read the introduction that we had for them, the information. We have from South Africa tonight, Dr. Mattera, and he's a renowned South African poet, writer, social and political leader, and activist. He is known for his acts of compassion and caring for the lesser privileged, and has shown a profound concern for the children and youth at risk in South Africa and across her borders. Dr. Mattera is best known for his seminal poetry collection, A Zanian Love Song, and his autobiography, Memory is a Weapon. So please, let's give Dr. Mattera a big round of applause. And we also have a spoken word artist and poet, Hafele, who is a spoken word theater director whose directional productions include Itchy City, War, Soil, and Bread. His books of poetry and short stories, which we do have here, so please make sure you pick up some of their works before you leave. Thy Condom Come, and Outspoken. Hafele is a regular contributor to Chimurenga magazine and a columnist for Y magazine, where he writes on the spoken word about the scene of contemporary poetry, spoken poetry in South Africa and elsewhere. So let's give Hafele a very, very round of applause. We also have some other very special guests who are local here to DC. And our first very special guest that we're going to bring up is whom we have labeled DC's Poet Laureate. She is so incredible, and I'm honored to say one of my most favorite on the planet poets. So without further ado, if you all will welcome her in her own very special way, our loved and beloved sister, Laini Mataka.
Thank you. I've always loved Margaret Walker's poem, For My People. Okay. I like this so much that this poem is called For Margaret Walker and Her People. Okay. For the dimly lit faces who did what no one witnessed, recorded, or sang about, For the ordinary or unseemly who work the underpinnings of liberation like ants, infamously building, consistent in their anonymity. You are the people. That's right. You are the people that it's always been about. From the nameless who eked out a pinch of food for runaways, and the blood-soaked whose lips stayed glued. The impoverished who stole from themselves to finance the apocalyptic dreams of Brother Nat, the sheet-burning visions of Gabe, or Denmark's spell for how to snatch a black soul back from white possession. In your obsession to stay alive, your daily efforts carried the race with more intensity and frequency than the one-time heroes that history loves to brag about. For the soldiers who fought the daily fight, living between the candles' ends, humping it from birth to death, just holding on, taking the insults, swallowing the venom that with finesse erodes a person's lifeline, false smile by false smile. Just holding on, never seeming to gain ground and determined never to give up any. Holding firm to identity in the face of super technological assault, multi-million-dollar deals, promises of honorary whiteness, and a plethora of stuff that real people could never need except in a world gone berserk. For the unacknowledged, unnoticed, undocumented, for those who were the adhesive who moved as we moved, never letting go, nails dug into blackness so deeply that even death couldn't rip them out. For you, snatched from the villages unmissed, you trampled along the march unmourned, you shoved off the ships uncounted, you dying in the halls mute. For the millions, the snuffed out, silenced, censored millions, existing in time still not knowing where to go because the beacon you need to see by can only be lit by your descendants' remembrance. For the strange fruit never tasted, for the disappeared and never seen again, for the raped whose voices were stolen and preserved on wax by the rapist, for the disbelieved swearing your stories up and down to people who hid their ears when they saw you coming, for the heads that kept to the sky when there was no comfort on earth. In honor of your pain, I cauterized the enemy in my brain, daring it ever to rise again. For the dreamless, the hopeless, the barren and abandoned, for all the black faces that Lincoln and Bill Clinton didn't free, for the sensitive turned addict, for the artistic turned outlaw, for the genius turned trickster, for the enchanting turned hoe. Your sorrow is the key to my soul's inner doors. For the never had a clue, all those broken up shades of black and brown warring against this invisible thing that kept cannibalizing you. For the unread, the uninformed, the mystery-filled lives squashed by the mystery. The pathologically religious, the too educated to even make sense. For the unconscious and their unconscious little ones. For those who fought unknowingly on the wrong side for all the right reasons. For the politically unevolved. For those who never knew that it was all about color. The bad feelings they could never shake, the boulder they could never get up from under was all about color. For those who knew that and lost their minds in the knowing, isolated, laughed at, ignored for dwelling on accuracies the enemy could only refute with violence and death. For the teachers severed from schools for not letting black youth stumble around in the darkness. For those who lost their jobs because they couldn't silence their black blood. For those who would always go blow for blow with the demons over the smallest slight. Those who were a menace just by breathing, always generating havoc, always pushing the limits of the injustice that was so determined to corral them. For the people who went to court to support an afro, who called the corporations to the carpet over braids and cornrows, who backed the American legal system up over dreadlocks. I can't promise you healthy pensions, stock options, or golden years of abundance, but I swear on my roots that I will never, ever wallow in any beauty that is not my own. For those who refused to believe any of the hype, you know those people who wore blinders, just kept on dressing loud and laughing and dancing hearty and dancing whenever the muscle and music squeezed them. Yeah, they kept on loving watermelon, scoffing on chicken, and shrieking out the gospel like thorn birds, wringing all the joy you could out of every day, no matter how little of it you had for yourself. You never fully surrendered to the notion of there being anything better to be than your Nubian selves. Please, allow me the honor of wiping clean the tracks of your tears. Please allow me the ecstasy of serving your still exalted interests. Please drape me with your acceptance that it may be my armor and my shield. Fire up the bevels of your memory. Burn me a sword of Malcolm X caliber, and I will spend the rest of my lifetimes obliterating your enemies until they are no more. Yes.
Well, that is how we cope with America. That's how we cope with the hip-hop madness, the rap commercial rap that continues to disfigure our children, our minds. So what we do is we create a space for sisters like that. Sister poet, priestess. That sister is the welcoming poet for you guys. Of course, this Gullah sister from South Carolina. Gullah, dangerous. For Ethiopia, it's not Gullah, Gullah. So we don't get in trouble. This sister is the kind of people that we want to take over places like this because she knows how to run with it. And so she's our new coordinator. I want everybody to join me to thank her. And that was the welcoming poetry, but we're going to have also solidarity poetry after the presentation from our guests today. First, let me just say welcome to our humbly claimed liberated territory to do anything we want. In this liberated territory, we call ourselves modern Maroons. I'm not going to explain Maroons because it gets me in trouble, especially when you have folks like the real Maroons. They correct you everything, including their birthday. And so, for me, when we, should I say my wife would be too possessive for feminists, but my partner is better. Shirikiana, who's standing right there watching the whole event with me. Together, we created this with the support of the African American community and those Africans from other parts of Africa who continue to come and support us for just this kind of occasions. Every time I travel, I've been blessed. First, I didn't even know electricity when I was born, and I was the first in my family to gaze at a small bulb with all my sisters, waiting for that electricity to come where I was born. And suddenly, I'm now playing, I'm fooling with lights, actually. Camera is nothing but lights. And then I'm traveling all the time. I don't know how I did it, how I got into this situation, but I've been going places. And everywhere I go, I meet black people, and I say, how can I share them to the black people I know in Washington, D.C.? And that's how we created these situations in this place, to share the black people we know that we should be aware. Because for me, often defeat is the only comprehended dialogue when it comes to the struggle of resistance of African people. And I was talking to my student, and he continually tried to tell me, well, you talk about Maroons and things, but you're talking about defeat. And I was saying to the young brother, it's not really defeat. When you keep it alive, it means the struggle is going on, it's not dead. Defeat is not like the fact there's no triumph. That is a matter of the historical circumstances and the force of history. But the fact we continue to insist to carry the baton of struggle and resistance makes our oppressors, people who continue to keep us in bondage, mentally at least, if not physically, if not economically, and those bourgeoisie black people who collaborate in our demise, we remind them that the struggle is just waiting for a spark plug to reignite itself, because the world has to change. It can't stay as is. And sometimes also nature joins, and like the Florida, the skirt of America wide open, and then what do we see? The denied poverty, the condition of black people, to a point where most white bureaucrats and black bourgeoisie black people try to say they must be Jamaicans, refugees, they can't be Americans. But they are Americans, and we live with them every day. We try to photograph and tell their story. And so that is very, very important, and this place allows us to have our own imperfect dialogue. Now, I'm very happy to recognize Professor Ackland Lynch, undying from the day we opened it. He's here. Today he canceled so many things because I told him I have to share Hafele and Mattera with you. I have to share them. And then we have Professor Nyang, who just always is hiding, though we when we created an African space, the African Studies Department is the last to come, and we want to welcome the renegade African Studies Department. Professor Edgar is also here, and Professor Chum is he cross-dresses between us and them, so we have always kept in touch with what they do. But I'm very pleased to say that they crossed over today, and I'm very proud, especially the students who they brought with them. I welcome you, and that I hope that you continue to come, because we have our house open. We don't discriminate. We only want people to tolerate that we created it for a purpose, for a vision. We don't want people to just take it over. We want everybody to join uplifted. Now, when I first went to South Africa, I had to be subjected to this old man who keeps going young, and I kept getting old. And I thought I was getting younger than Ackland Lynch, and the guy comes in, still looks young. The first time I saw him, I don't know if he remembers, you gave me your signed book, and he was an amazing bright light. Because when you go to South Africa, one of the most tragic aspects of South Africa is the fabricated history that does not want to reconstruct the new South Africa from a profoundly realistic departing point. And so for me, I've been there 17 times, and I continue to see the betrayal of not only South Africans, but African people and progressive white people who put their life on the line for the ultimate and final showdown of a struggle against imperialism in South Africa. And then I said, the revolution then is cultural. The remaining revolution is cultural. Filmmakers, poets, playwrights, painters. We now are really the armed struggle. No more gun is going to be decisive. That our artwork, our literature is going to bring the next inevitable revolution. Who does it in South Africa but the poets? And so when I met him, I left. There were brothers and sisters who continue to remind at least the South African people, because you can never remind politicians anything. They're too preoccupied with the art of deception, their own occupational engagement. And it's very hard, especially African leaders, to tell them the truth, or the tornado just has to eat them like Mobutu, and that's too late to wake up. And so, but poets have to make sure that African people, and poets and artists and writers, we got to really make sure that mothers don't lose children for nothing no more. The Zimbabwean mother should know that she lost her son, hanged by ironsmith for something. We got to see the quantifiable economic return in political terms, social, cultural terms, the expense we pay with our people's blood. And I think the cultural revolution is the next inevitable revolution. For me, it just began after South Africa, so I'm now better at peace. The 17th time I went, of course, they continue to regenerate each other. So when I was surprised with the old man and his stubbornness and his undying commitment to not only South Africa, but to Africa, then I go to Ethiopia, I turn the TV, I still see this old man still kicking and doing these crazy things. And I was very, very impressed to see you doing those poetries that nobody wants to hear except the people. Now, then there's this guy I call Hafele, the Mutabaruka of South Africa. The Mutaba. I was accidentally taken, because South Africa, it's very hard to go to see anything. You want to go out quickly. You don't want to be there, because every step reminds you another inevitable deluge. And so what you do is you don't want to go anywhere. Just get the ticket and come back every time. So they take me to Hafele. He was doing a one-man show. He had the whole South. I saw a different South Africa that said to me, Haile, hey, this is the extension. This is the generational struggle. He is in charge of the next weapon of transformation. It encouraged me. And I said, I wish I could share them with my people, with my family, with my children. And so this is it. When I heard they were in New York, I hijacked them. I said, you got to come and meet the spirit and souls of Washington, D.C. people. You got to cross here. Don Mattera, you know, he has to fly out. He has, like, all of them have to be in a bus tonight. What a hard way. You know how you can't sleep on the bus, and it's but they came because they said, okay, Haile, we will come. And then you guys didn't fail me, you came. And so I'm really very happy. Thank you for coming. And now I want to leave the two brothers, take it from me and run it. And at the end, as I told you, there's going to be a solidarity poetry. Shukiana. Well, they shouldn't be outside. They should be inside. There's space there. So anyway, okay. I would like the two of them to quote, but don't forget that we have for you also solidarity return at the end. So initially, we're going to have to hear their poetry, and when they get exhausted, because I'm also timing them for their bus, what we'll do is question and answer, because I really think you should ask these people, because to me, like a cultural perspective of South Africa is very important. We get the package. We have books. You can read if you are, you can read Comrades in Business, for example, if you want to know the political situation, or about, Bishop Tutu and all those guys who cry in the, Tears and Reconciliation, no justice in it, interestingly, put together. And it's very, very important for you to hear the artist analyze South Africa. And then you can use the political science, or not the politicians, but the political science, the material written on the political perspective by political science people, and then synthesize it for yourself. And so I hope we'll have a question and answer at the end. Please come forward, my brothers.
Thank you, Haley. Well done. I'll do the first reading. And I also have the pleasure of introducing my wife, my 43-year-old wife, and the 70-year-old husband. Her name is Melody. Very strong freedom fighter. Girl who has worked hard to free our country. And the people that she fought against during the liberation struggle in her job are still in charge of her. And she's supposed to be free. So good evening to you all, sisters and brothers. I met this great man, my son Teddy. He's a mad, mad, mad fan of yours. He's just completed a full-length movie, and fantastic kid. He was trained in Colorado Springs. He came under the wings of Larry Parks in Chicago. And we have been fortunate. Out of all the miasma and dirt of Jim Crowism, of the lynches, the Lynchburgs, some good has come. I normally tell my students that out of all of the trash and the dirt and the black soil that has been mixed with cow dung and human dung, sprouts the beautiful black and white lily. My repertoire is short because you have to experience this young man. And when you have experienced him, he will say that the old man he knew his time. One poet tells us this: we shall not always plant while others reap the golden increment of bursting fruit, not always countenance abject and mute, that lesser men should hold their brothers cheap, ancestors cheap, not everlastingly while others sleep, shall we beguile their limbs with mellow flute, not always bent to some more subtle brute. We were not made eternally to weep. The night, though dark, relieves the stark white stars. There are buds that cannot bloom at all in light, but crumple piteous and fall. And so, in the dark, we hide the heart that bleeds and wait and tend our agonizing seeds. County Cullen. Pour, oh, pour that parting soul in song. Pour it in the sawdust glow of night, into the velvet pine smoke air tonight, and let the valley carry it along. And let the valley carry it along. O land and soil, red soil, so scant of grass, so profligate of pine, and now, before they strip the old tree bare, one plum was saved for me. One plum becomes an everlasting song, caroling softly, souls of slavery. Oh, Negro slaves, ripe, burdened plums, squeezed and drained in the noonday sun. And now before they strip the old tree bare, one plum was saved for me. One plum becomes a seed, caroling softly, souls of slavery. Jean Toomer. Of course, I cut the poem short. It's a long poem. Little brown baby with sparkling eyes, come to your pappy and sit on his knee. What you been doing, sir? Making sand pies? Hey, look at that skin. That's molasses out there. The birds are gonna eat you up yet, looking so sticky and sweet. Mam and pappy don't know you. We believe you's a tramp. Hey, Bogerman, come here on the dough. Here's a bad boy you can have for to eat. Swallow him up from his head to his feet. Mommy and Pappy don't know him. Oh, I knew you'd come close and hug me, you little bugger. Come, little brown baby. We should always know clear skies and happiness. We should always be a child on my breast. Little brown baby with sparkling eyes. James Weldon Johnson. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. We slowly rode. He knew no haste, and I had put away my labor and my leisure too for his civility. We passed a house whose cornice was but a swelling in the ground. We passed a school where children played at wrestling in the ring. We passed the fields of grazing grain. We passed the setting sun. Ah, 'tis centuries gone, but still I surmise the horses' heads were toward eternity drawn. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. Emily Dickinson. So you could see that you guys have a world full of energy and power. Your poets have said it, the Maya Angelos, the Thurmans, the Sojourner Truths, the Langston Users, the Anna Bontan. I can go on and on and on. Out of all of the pain, the dirt, the slavery, the shit, came these human beings. Pain and suffering are not always the end. They are a journey. Fear is the destination. But pain, suffering, all of these things, they're a journey. And they take you to this path, and you'll find a stop where you can get off and drink some water. Quench your thirst. Slake your thirst and move on. This is what has happened for some of us. Although some of the taps have been bloodied with our anguish, with our pain, with our suffering, and we thought we were free. We really believed we were free. Because political freedom does not normally translate into human freedom. Because those who held us in bondage still hold us in bondage. In rands and cents, in dollars and so on. So the journey continues for us. Where will it end? Who knows? Maybe the explosion of the heart and the mind, because there's no more explosion of the blood. There's no place for it. We can change this world with our art, with our culture, with our poetry, the blood of our souls. Oh, way down south in Georgia, oh, break the heart of me. Love is a gnarled and naked shadow on a gnarled and naked tree. Oh, way down south in Georgia, oh, break the heart of me. They hung my young dog lover to a crossroads tree. You see what your poets have given you? They've given you the history that is being denied. One such poet, a woman whose name now escapes me, was a kid when her grandmother and mother used to take her on this, in Georgia, used to take her on this road to this church, and there was this pathway in the little road that they used to, where she used to walk. As a 13-year-old, there was buildings. As a 31-year-old, only the first part of the road, the pathway, was visible. There was buildings, tenements, as you guys call them, shopping centers, and everything had changed. And this is the poem. Oh, little road, all weary in the on the wind, brown like my race is brown, your trodden beauty like my trodden pride, dust of the dust, we must not let them bruise us down. They must not bruise us down. Angelina Weld Grimke. So we can go on. You have so many. We know why the cage bird sings. We rise and we rise. Your poets are articulating and speaking. We watch the baseball too much. We watch the rugby, the soccer ball, the football too much. And none of us stand and have time to take our children to see the sunset and the sunrise. My son, Teddy, in 1984, was the first Mattera to leave the shores of the oppressed South Africa to come to Colorado Springs to study for his arts. Actually, it was a science degree, calculus, you name them. And of course, the kid changed later to become the filmmaker that he is. On the day of his departure, we had slaughtered the fatted calf. We had called our neighbors to see the red letter day when the first Mattera leaves this house of bondage to go into the land of the free. So the sun was setting like it never set before. It was like it's so round and red and gold just hanging over our doors. And then birds came and they, in their long file, they flew past the setting sun. And I looked at them and I said, you guys know where you are going to. Where the hell is my son going to? So we packed his bags and he left. In the semi-dark of dusk, the sun was about to set. In the semi-dark of dusk, I watch with envy the hurried passage of birds, head following tail in single audit file, a wing flap upon eager wing flap. They pass the sinking eye of God, breaking a silence labored but not yet born. A day not yet dead, a night not yet come. Silhouettes in a sky of golden sheen, taking freedom in flight. And homeward their journeys end in sight. Ah, birds, birds, with burning in my chest, I watch your twilight exodus, and I think a time. I think a time when we too shall blind the sun with our wings and soar above this house of bondage to the zenith of love and beauty, where our nests will not be broken, nor our fledglings slaughtered, nor our house destroyed. I watch you, birds. I watch you. And I think I think a time when we too shall look at God and see our image in his eyes. Thank you. I definitely have some other stuff, and it's just 2 more pieces, and then maybe we could do my eyes. Oh Lord, my eyes! I found them. I have a very wide repertoire of both poetry by African Americans or Americans generally, and also British poetry. Because you know, when you really believe that you are a poet, you cannot be a poet in isolation to the poetry of other people, the pain, the suffering, the joys, the victories of other people, because there are no other people. There's never been other people. Colonialism creates other people, and this other never belongs to everyone. And Frantz Fanon will tell you more. Read his book, The Wretched of the Earth. Read Steve Biko, I Write What I Like. Read Crochet. Read Kierkegaard. You read them all. They will tell you there is no other. I am because you are. And you are because I am. And I am, and you are, and we are. And this is the power of the African philosophy of humanism and Ubuntu. I just wanted to share this funny little poem here. I think, can you trust the poets? I visited many years ago with the Navajo. And they're not an easy people. And during my visit, have I lost? Da, 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 da. And I visited the Navajos, and I stayed for 3 weeks with the Navajos. I also lived with the Pueblos, with the Blackfoot, and with the Sioux. I shared with Bob Dylan and Marlon Brando a platform in Kansas where they fought for the mineral rights of the Blackfoot. They were being kicked off the so-called reservations, these first people. And there I was in the midst of a great musician, a great actor, great philanthropist, and of course the Navajos, the Blackfoot and the Sioux and the others were together supporting. Their absence in our presence tells us something. Their absence in our company tells us how the forces of colonialism and imperialism have helped to divide. When we speak black, we don't think about them because they aren't black enough. Because suddenly blackness has become the opposite of whiteness, and we know it is not. It is a permanence of spirit, of soul. Because we know what people have tried to do with black. I was telling this young man, Tinsei, at the back of me, the first Christian church was founded by the followers of Jesus among the Ethiopians and in Alexandria. This church was hijacked and taken out of Africa to Nice in 13 AD. The devil, Faustus Mephistopheles, was always depicted as red suit, horns, and a fork. After 13 AD, he became black. And we can understand why. The black soul, the black heart, all of these things, all of these are concomitant influences that support the notion of human superiority. I think the greatest, most superior human being is the one who has compassion where there is no compassion. And for me, compassion is the highest religion. Compassion is greater than Islam, greater than Judaism, greater than Christianity, greater than all religion is compassion. Because compassion is the first source of the Almighty Spirit. And for me, that is the way that I think. But I lived with these Navajos. I saw them at the bottle stores, drunk, lying around. Every place you go, there's a bottle store, there's a Navajo. There's a Pueblo, there's a bottle store. There's a Blackfoot, there's a bottle store. In Ohio, where they live, it's bottle stores. In South Africa, every township, as you enter, bottle store. Yeah, bottle store. So what is it about the bottle store and the human psyche, especially the black human psyche? You guys, young ones, you have to engage these, you have to speak to them, you have to intervene, and you have to present a scholarship for us so that we can understand and our children can understand. And this is it's for the Navajos. Song for the Navajo. Beloved of my soul, furnace in my dreams, there is a silence that comes to me in this place, in this veil of history, among these bleeding mountains, coming from the lap of the lake and through the eye of window rock that quilts the Navajo sky. A silence that beats in the quiet heart of the sacred Hogan. Yes, there is a silence in this crimson earth that breathes into the soul, sustains it with peace. There is a brooding presence here, ever watchful and austere, the spirit of Navajo sailing silently across the plains, where ancient voices roll over tom-toms and the red dust trembles beneath the Inquisition of Moccasin feet. There is a silence that comes, and it speaks Navajo. And for me, this is a plea to the African American society, to the black people. You cannot want to free yourself and the condition under which you exist without them. They are natural to the soil. They are natural to the cactus. They are natural to your Grand Canyon. They are natural to the air. They are natural to water. They are natural to food. They are the first nations of this place. And we came as slaves. And we were divided and broken away from them and still are divided and broken. It is only now and then you will say, I got Cherokee blood. Me, I got Apache blood. Yeah, I'm a nigger, but I got Apache blood. This is not the way. I think the challenge here today is invite them to come. Look them up. Bring them closer. These are your people. Because the same tragedy is being played out in South Africa. The First Nations of the Khoikhoi and the San, the so-called Bushmen and Hottentot, they are nowhere in the equation of power. They are forgotten. These are the first peoples. Instead, they are being insulted as Mabusmani, the people that don't belong. For me, these are the challenges that we in South Africa, those people who contain power now, will they have it forever? It will change. I must end with a poem to our country, South Africa, which is free and not free. But I also have to tell you this, which I told the students at NYU. My dear brother, my sister, we are victims of a grave paradox in our country, a powerful paradox. In one way, you hate what has happened. You hate the big lie of freedom. the black elite have accrued so much wealth in 10 years that it boggles the mind. You have seen the golden ladders of opportunity being ascended, and as the higher they go, they take the ladder with them. Higher, they take the ladder with them. But their day is coming, because their day must come. But conversely, Professor, conversely, listen to me, lest I portray hypocrisy. I have seen a tap. You know, a faucet? A tap? I have seen a tap gushing water where there was no tap for 300 years. Small mercy. I have seen a school where there was no school for 300 years. I have seen a clinic where there was no clinic for 300 years. I have seen people walk with their heads up, some women especially, walk with their heads up when their heads and their eyes used to be on the feet of other people. There are miracles happening in my country. And those miracles are not performed by Mr. Mandela or Bishop Tutu or me or Hafele. It is in the nature of life. Life longing for itself. Khalil Gibran tells us this. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life longing for itself. They may come through you, but not from you. I'm saying things are happening in my country. Some of them are inexplicable. How out of the rock of desolation they can squeeze a drop of comfort. It's the hope of all ages. We can see where children were enemies. We can see friendships coming up across color lines. These give you hope, despite the fact that I am not happy with the ideological, economical constructs of my country. I can see one day the poor will come up. They will claim back from their own brothers. And as I told Hafele, blacks have a penchant for killing blacks. We can really kill each other when the time comes. Hey nigga, what you looking at, you motherfucker? Bah! Detroit. Hey nigga, bah! We kill each other. I have seen this. I've traveled. I think the struggle is about life. The struggle is about truth. And we in South Africa are going to get there. The lies are going to eat the liars up. It's coming. It's coming. I just wanted you to know that. And Mr. Bush and Mr. Blair and all of these power brokers in the world. You know what God says in the Holy Quran? I have brought down empires, Muhammad. I have brought down the Roman Empire, the Persian Empire. I have brought down empires. Fret not your hearts, my dear brothers and sisters. Read tonight the Psalm of David, 37. Go home tonight. Open up your Bible, read the Psalm 37, and then you will see. Fret not your heart for the success and the deeds of these evil ones, for they shall be crushed, and they shall wither like grass. It will come. It will come. But who will remain? You, the stoic, the steadfast, those who speak out against evil, those who do not collaborate with evil. I want you, this is not a political speech, it's a human speech. I'd like to give you the courage and urge you to be strong of heart, to be strong of spirit, for redemption shall come. Very short poem about my country. It's a long one, though. I told you that once you come to South Africa, You either run away for the paradox, because, as Professor said, it's that kind of country. You see with an eye and you say, God, this is not what the people fought for. And then you see stoic souls, hearts, people with metal in their blood. This is the paradox of my country. But I love my country. I love my country. I have 10 children and so many grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And this is what I teach them, Professor. Life is a race. There is no winning post. It's on your marks. Get set. Before you go, turn around to see who you can take with you. And for me, that is all I leave my children. I share this poem with you. This land, South Africa. This land, the whole land. Each grain of sand, north to south, east to west. The given earth, the best land. The prostrate valleys, the angry mountains, the smiling hills. This beautiful, beautiful, beautiful country must be healed with all the love it takes to pump one heart and fill it with a dream. Fill it with a dream. Fill it with a dream. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Just met my daughter. Thank you very much. Thank you, my brother. Hafele, whatever.
I know you, Hafele.
So, you want water?
Yeah. Good evening, good people.
Good evening.
Yeah, it's good to be with my fathers. Don Mattera taught me to speak. I met him when I was 18, I think, trying to, scribble stuff. And, he was giving a talk at, I think, we were at FUBA at the time, I was trying to be a musician. That's before I discovered that I couldn't sing. So, well, at least I can half sing, half talk. That's what spoken word is about. So it's not bad. But then, I met this man. He was giving a talk, and I was listening carefully. And he did a piece called Sea and Sand, My Love, My Land. I began to fall in love with poetry at that time. I used to write before, but I wasn't thinking of myself as a poet. I was just writing songs and, just little rhymes here and there to impress one or two people. But, I had Mattera, and I began my journey, and not just on my own, right? My first few poems were written, I think, with his guidance, and I still go to Bradon to hear him. He's always feeding my spirit. I met Garima a few years ago. I've been here before, and I met him via Sankofa, the movie, before I met him in person. And, the day that I met him, I think much later on we came to have some groundings, and I began to understand the difference between writing as an agonist and writing as a protagonist, right? And there's a difference there in that if you're an agonist, you're crying, for pity. A protagonist wants things to happen. And that's why Garima too is my father.
Yes.
So I will start with a piece in my language to clear the path. it goes to all the people who have taught me to speak, and the journey goes from here to there. E jetswe ke diphepeng tsa teng e tswa mo mpeng ya mmu o ithwele ngwana bo madi ngwana ba itisa phogwana bo mphakate ba e ba botsetse e tsalwa ke dikatse bo tladi mothwana bo motlhabane le bo fikile bona ba etakile o ka nyatsa shoti kgosi tsile o leleme mashetla maloba o e rwele ka magetla a e kgwatla e tlodisa mawatla e tswa ferera e me fofa ka dipere bo Mattera bula diferkeikere o mpone ke mona ga o le mamena ke go kgwela yona nnang ka go mena ka go baka ka rivese ka go tšhentšha dikere ka go tima dikerese ka go laeta mabone o mpone ga ke rapele repe I make what I like, I'm not a lick-ass poet. I give no blowjobs to politicians. My tongue can't be bought to dance in the rot of the king's court. I don't even rap, call me the unrapper. I unwrap the napkins of this baby nation to show you slime of the times. I'm nobody's official poet or puppet. I make what I like, I diss what I dislike. I carry the spirit of graffiti. I obey no law of religious gravity. Spoken word is my shepherd. I shall not want shit, however sweet the sound. My song grows from the ground where Mattera rose to write in the middle of a scream, where Papa ramps as a dream of war, where Mumia rhymes against the death row, where we die because we don't know how to walk the frank talk. I make what I like, I sink the censorship. Never mind the head of state or the state of his head. I soak in the word. I soak in the word of the sage who asked why, swim in the same soup warmed all over. Le fifi tladi. I sample sounds of your soul for Azania's children to hear. The troubled coughs of history's echoes around us, inside us, in the stink of my ink when I sound. Check, 1, 2. Gebaba, bella Babilone. Gebaba, bella Babilone. Gebaba, bella Babilone. Gebaba, bella Babilone. Beautiful ones are dying. Streets too are dead, no soldiers, machinery faking heartbeat. Mad engines are petrol drunk, a crash against the mindless skulls of traffic lights and bleeding nights. Wipe the smile of my poem's face, it cracks my guts open and out comes the gutter. I jump into the sewer, I stew up mad shit. There'll be no Vaseline or shiny balm of a toddler poem. I swim to the muddy bottom of the sewer, looking for an angry God. If I die there, at least I fertilize electricity of spoken word. Word spoken in tongues where beautiful ones are dying. They take a plunge into the crazy scream of 7th Street, Melville. Marinate their soul in the sea of Spiro's beer and eternal conversations about changing this damn country. My country, where you can't get a free cigarette. They lit their fingers, cremated themselves, leaving behind the ganja ash of memory, the salt of tears for Dumi, who makes a Sans Alicia's movie in which the maker must die. Mattera, are we truly the fiction we choose to be, or just beautiful ones dying here? Here you die for the wallet in your pocket. The muggers up there in suits, ties, lies, rulers, chewers, floss out bits of our flesh and swallow. These sharks have no vision beyond the plate. They don't even know who or what they ate. It is history's baked beans causing a fat in the face of the poor, a bomb in the east, a bomb in the west, its G-string tearing rectum and floods of diarrhea drown the promised land of Nestum and syrup, killing beautiful ones dying. Killing beautiful ones dying. I jump into the sewer, I stew up mad shit in my country, which refuses to take off its clothes and show its unpublishable parts. My country, where the poet is a vending machine, pops only with money. My country, whose angel liver shivers from whiskey. My country, which burns holes in its lungs but won't stop smoking. My country, whose cough is full-blown laughter beyond the cure. My country, which twists the dreadlocks all day but won't go to work. My country. My country, which sells rainbow cunt in Oxford Street and tourists cry with joy. My country, whose house is robbed but gives diamond hugs and gold handshakes to thieves. My country's tears screech against the tin shacks' shekels. My country, which is the thin line between womb and tomb. My country, whose smile is a hideous scar, eating up the stars, swallowing up beautiful ones. My country face. Could it be that your tears caught dust? 9 months later, it somersaults in its mother's womb, pops out feet first, no labor pains, no birth cries, just the sound of silence breaking it. Keep the nappy for a pair of jeans. It suckles from a pint of beer. How soon it learns to swear crazy. Crazy, it's a race through history's scars. It is riding Bonner Beatles back. Jumps as the baseline pulse. It rocks against Babylon in rooftop Dandor. Rag on the rampage, it is dread. It passes all. Drop dead gorgeous. Looking for a heart to break. It's already tired of screwing it to stitch its canter. Shut it to the world. A slice of its pippy. Throw it in the sea. It never bled. Just flood of acid laughter corroding your soul. It is Zim Zim come to Josie. Bouncing, it is jamming in a rub-a-dub style. Sticks out its tongue, waves it like a flag of flame. It is chasing fame in Rocky Street. It is not foolish, just learned to speak pure English through blocked nose. Strikes a pose, not case. It wears Azania's face. Liar, it rules in Bohemia. It's amazing grace. How sweet the sound of a one-night stand. Kebaba, kebabella Babilone. Kebaba, kebabella Babilone. Kebaba, kebabella Babilone. Kebaba, kebabella Babilone. Baby Jakes come in small packages. They pack dynamites in their trumpet blows. Break down the walls of Jericho's temples. Biblical brimstone and fire. In this city of cold blood flows cheaply like pavement tomatoes. The streets are red. Rivers, dead bodies and gold-plated teeth. 5-star smile in the face of a corpse. Heaven. Who stole the red bandana from the head of Ponte City? Now we know who's been hiding the blues. Itchy city blues, deep as the froth of cappuccino made in Nino's kitchen. Hot as spicy chicken wings, fry them before they fly. Scramble their eggs, feed on foul futures, spew out vegetarian views at lunch meetings, munch and run to pay the gym to make you slim. In small street you soak in the sounds of hustlers and hawkers selling secret socks, starter packs and armor empty cassette. 2 4 5 rand, 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 armor empty cassette. 2 4 Itchy city people, sweet as a pimple in the heart of a dimple, but not as simple as sorting apples and oranges. Choice assorted like a peacock parade of sex workers. Do a quick job before you get home to wife and family. Every Tom, Dick, and Pippi with cash gets their cuckoo in this city of golden wishes. Beggars ride horses of small change. Uncle, please. Small change, I said, please. Itchy city lights, kill the night. Not even God is bored. Ride in the back of a hijack. Shot left, shot right. It's a chase scene down Delver Street. The screeching sound track draws tapes of hungry circles around us. Hungry circles surround us, but we can't be swallowed. We live eternally in the scratch of a DJ's needle on the skin of a tent table. We write ourselves in soundscapes of the wind, in strobe lights of the sun. We run cables of lyrics in the veins of the underground. But after sips of black label, some show off their secret socks. Every dog has its day of chewing the sweet bone of a cellular telephone. God is running out of airtime in the city. Loan sharks are Jesus. Save us from landlords of rotten buildings and busted water pipes. Stink like killers of Saddam's sons. They cut your power cables and paid electricity bills, and riots in Saint Jose. Faceless fires and curtains of flames flagging and roaring through dark caves in the jungle. Trees of skyscrapers, their monstrous shadows are blinding. We can't even see the second coming of Babylon running towards us. Gavi's kids in house of hemp robes catch a fire of holy herbs. The smoke is red, gold, and green. Red, gold, and green rings of smoke to cure the sufferers from Babylon chitis. Sobukwe's flock grow cabbages and sweet potatoes on street pavements to feed, clothe, and school the children. School the children, teach them to walk on fire. Who says the fire is fictitious? It's a furious figment of the city's madness. We point fingers at Nigerians, but who is shooting poison needles in the arms of wingless angels? Heaven help us, lead us not to Babylon by Patco bars. At least let us climb to the top of pyramid schemes before police tear down these dreams. Will we escape these ulcers of fires inside us? These ulcers of fires eating up the bowels of our poor. Yet television fables say that we are one. But we are the ones who know the itching soul of this city. Kebaba, kebabella Babylon. Kebaba, kebabella Babylon. Kebaba, kebabella Babylon. Kebaba, kebabella Babylon. Kekokota kokota mabate kebata kemate. We want a pissed off poem with the soul of a bomb. Blow up temples of poetry emperors and set the hounding fires of the word against the heels of their fleeing skeletons. Dish us a poem with beef against the butchery of babies, suckling tits of dead books, heads buried in the scrolls of spooks. They will never know the pounding heart of the living word until we send a Trojan microphone, big box, life into these glorified mortuaries of libraries. We carry the mutinous vomit of pissed off poetry, spill into ears of donkeys with poison pencils, cancel the path they sketch to Pony Brajev's children back to slavery's gold-plated chains. We sculpt the wrought poem to part both ends of the Red Sea. Refuse to make bloody tea. We don't serve those idiot pharaohs who own stoves that cook up cosmetics for urban voiceless choirs on their knees. These Christmas trees can't set us free. Give us this day a Malcolm poem for those catching hell. Pissed off poem flips a lint in line, unleash canine teeth of spoken word against Babylon the beach, whose bums bewitch, whose buttocks have swallowed the balls of the nation's spear in the Congo's diamond wars, fought not for us, but for a piece of Babylon's ass. And fathers of the nation come out of Robbers Island, spreading virus of giggling slaves. Maggots fall from the smiling teeth of our gods when their cock heads bow before the raw cunt of the World Bank. Market forces pull down their holy underpants, showing the shrinking tools of their trade. Call us vulgar. We are combat lingo in sync with the soil's tempo. We sample the tempo of Baraka's poem that wrestles cops in alleys. Pissed off poem talks crap with peppos. We compose songs where toast and rose to kick Napoleon's butt in Haiti. The dust in history's mouth settles. Not totally. The tongue uncoils when you rinse the mouth with the living liquid of the word. It brings out prisoners from slave ships of our times. These black ass white shitstims who shed on the mat must be spat at. We stole Caliban's tongue from a page in the Tempest. Our profit is to swear at Deb swines who lynch Basarwa for diamonds in the belly of Kalahari sands. We spit at the red ends of Harare. We are metaphors at war for the poor. We are powered by the furious appetite of the living word. We scribe it read from underground circles. These donkeys tap our phones because they can't cope with the pulse of rising light. We ignite scribbles against polished tombs of market-driven verse and sponsored tears of babies flocking the auction block. They sing top of the pop songs to their chains. We maroon pissed off poems into microphones, raise volumes of moans from Azania's bosom, feed the earth with riot. We are ripe for uprisings. We throw lyrical bricks against laws that sweep the road clean but rubbish the heart. The rot is under the skin of the knighted state. The serpent's grip is the empire's hug. But we slip out, refuse to Hutu when they Tutsi. We aim for the emperor's head. The word is truer than lead. Kebaba, kebabella Babyloni. Kebaba, kebabella Babyloni. She walks the pavements of my prayers. She smokes the holy grass of poem and prose. She rose from the loins of horizon's sun in her palm. She's the searing light of burning spears. She changes gears of my universe. She spills her oceans of flaming songs to the soil. She soaks my earth with fire seed. She's the root that sprouts sparks of ancient shoots through grains of memory. She dances with history skeletons. She tangles where no man goes. She say, fire sister. She opens her mouth in parables of lyrical uprisings. She speaks in tongues of unbroken eternities. Her endless Niles of lines flow for miles. She dwells in the trouble. Voice of landless spirits. She burns tattoos on the skin of the land. She wants to know who buys the lies and sells the soil under conference tables. She says we suckle. Without our soil we are focal. That's why she throws petrol bombs of poems to free every grain of Azania. She say, fire, sister. She's pregnant with seed of baby volcanoes. She gives birth to bearded infernos. She's my book of revelations. She's pages beyond hooks of spooks. She will not marry the snake for a slice of carrot cake. She can't be bought to dance in the Okay, there's a baby there. She's my book of revelations. She's pages beyond the hooks of spooks. She will not marry the snake for a slice of carrot cake. She can't be bought to swim in these maggoty seas. She moves in whirlpools of black magic. She casts the rebel spells like no one else. She swaps the sun with the moon, a moon at noon, sun at midnight, moon, noon, sun, midnight. She floods her lights into the birth of a Siamese nation in a crab-like dance heading sideways to landless futures. She tears away the gorgeous gear her venom wears. She cuts a scratch into history's vinyls to fetch the rhythms you want to erase. She samples songs of stolen soil. She's not the type to count freedoms before they hatch.
Well, you know, now you know why I had to scramble in 4 or 5 days to bring them here to share with you, because this is how I felt in South Africa every time I met them. And I always says, you know, when I jog, I always fantasize, if I was a millionaire, what would I do? If I had a lot of, if I hit the jackpot, what would I do? I always said, well, first I'll produce some Ben's film, the one he wanted to do all his life. Then I will give some of it for young filmmakers from the continent selected by me. And then I'll give 2 or 3 to Howard students that I like. And then I bring, the rest of the money will be a fund to just bring this kind of spirits that I want to share. There are folks like these 2 brothers in Brazil. I know a sister in Europe. We just don't have the power to transport them, and they did come, and I'm very grateful that they came. And I'm also, I just want to say quickly, before we ask we have about 30 minutes for question and answer, but I just want to recognize Professor Millington, thanking him for, since I talked about every professor, for bringing your film students, because this is what we're trying to make. We're trying to make film students imagine. And this event today can tell you the picture they painted on the cloud. I think tonight or tomorrow, you sometimes will remember you met with the topography of South Africa. You felt it, you touched it, the pore, the skins of South Africa. And I think that's what the power of poetry is all about. And I hope we can do this in film. Now, I want to start the question this way. Professor Ackland Lynch, I just want to, expose him here. You know, he went to South Africa, and he came back. And when he came back, he said something interesting. He told me he met this Boer farmer, a farmer in South Africa. And he said to him, and correct me if I paraphrased you, but I'm exposing you now as a first question. He said to him, I wish I knew ANC was going to be protecting me. I would have lived a different life for a long time. He said, when I was during apartheid, I had to spend so much money to be protected with electricity, guards, everything, so much to pay, and never took vacation. I never went nowhere. Every day uptight, living 24 hours when this bush Negroes are about to come on me. I added that up, okay, just to get the drama going. So, and he said, now, and thanks to ANC, I can take vacation, I travel. I've even visited some of these nice resorts that are put only, carved out for pleasure and rich white people in, those islands, Now and then we hear only when planes crash. But they're really secluded places. And he said, I'm having fun, thanks to ANC. And I remember that was like a volume a volume. That's a volume. That's a book about contemporary South Africa. And to hear it from them and just to see the hope side in the way, in their poetry, not only in the, Brother Mattera's, very philosophical, visionary, humanist expression, but even in their poetry, we heard that. And so, it's not a question, but that's the way I want to set it up. And I want to give you a chance more to ask question. Who else, who wants to go first? And if you have any question about anything, don't be, artists can, often have a very interesting insight about, the sociology and history. And you saw the economic, you see how he brought World Bank and just, linked it with things, that's it's like a very powerful metaphor here that we saw. So don't be afraid. Whatever question you have, let's go with it quickly. And short, brief comment. At the end, we have poets. We're going to do solidarity poetry to them. Until then is the question. So who wants to go first? Go ahead, my brother.
You mentioned in your poetry that political freedom does not translate into human freedom. Now, how is this actually playing out in the South African scene? Because we outside here see South Africa as a liberated sort of country, but you're telling us that you're still not liberated. So how is this actually playing out? And what struggle, or which struggle do you think is the stronger one? Do you think the struggle is more serious now against your own people, or do you think the struggle was more serious against the white apartheid system?
Well, I'm sure as the elder will go first. Anyhow, thank you again. Firstly, what is freedom? You have to ask yourself really, what is freedom, And for us who fought the struggle with you sacrificed with us, firstly, we didn't believe, number one, that those who marched with us in the trenches will forget us. We thought that our struggle was different from the other struggles of Africa. We thought that this one, because we did not drive the white man to the sea, because we did not exact our vengeance, because we did not do what all revolutions normally do, we thought that this one was different, that my brother's keeper was my brother's keeper, and that my sister's keeper was my sister's keeper. And we saw that this brother and this sister, who we presumed to be our keeper, moved away from us. It is true, whether they deny it or not. Political freedom does not necessarily transform into economic freedom. But we believed it would happen. We believed that the banks that were robbing us of loans because we were black and because we were risks would change. But they didn't change. What they did do was take our friends who marched with us, who died, who actually were shot with us in the trenches, and they were exiles and we were exiles. We believed that the exiles would get some of the wheat falling from their hands and the crumbs. But the banks made them managers with them, the same people that marched with us, the same people that fought with us. So we saw that there was a lie here, and still is a lie. But that does not change the skin of the serpent. The serpent remains the same. The serpent is economic power. Listen, my brothers and sisters, we are free. We built 1 million homes in 10 years. Wow, hey, happy. It's never been 1 million homes in 10 years. But we have 15 million people living in shacks. We have 6 to 10 million people who can't read and write. Still, we have every hour of every day, 24, 7 to 8 to 10 children dying of kwashiorkor, pellagra, and malnutrition. But we are free. So how are we free? How is this freedom? Yes, Mandela is free. Mandela helped to create the miracle for us. He won us back our dignity. We can look at the stars now without looking at the white man's shoes. But as looking at the stars, do they feed the mouth? Do they teach the children? This is the kind of lie that we fight against. And we are marked by the intelligence of our country. They have files on me, they have files on him. But we're supposed to be free. So these are the paradoxes. But that is not to say there's no good. There is a lot of good that has come. But guess who's enjoying the good? Those who enjoyed the best before. They build fences around their villages. The word is ensconce. They ensconce themselves in wealth. They have electrical wires around their villages. They have booms with guards at their gates. In our country, we cannot go in without saying to this black man, I came to see Mr. So-and-so. You wait here. Tring, tring. I've got this black man here. Do you think he can come up? Ask him what's his name. What's your name? My name is so-and-so. Oh, no, he can come in. Vrr, the gate opens. In my country? In my country? This is what I'm talking about. Look at me. I'm beautiful. I'm free. But look at you. Look at your children. Look how fat they still are. And look at my brother's cheeks glowing with the fat, eating from fields they did not plow. So for me, these are the paradoxes that we have to come to terms with. The black people of South Africa, they must come to terms with the past. The white people of South Africa must come to terms with the future. For me, that is the paradox. That is the key. They didn't drive us to the sea. They should have. They didn't rape and rob us and take our homes and our lands. We should have. They didn't butcher us and slaughter us. We should have. Or should we have? It's happening all over the world. Why didn't it happen there? So where is the concomitant responsibility, the concomitant compassion that goes with possession and dispossession? For us, those are the tricks. And our president tries to deal with them in a very intellectual and clever way. But we, the poets, we, the artists, we, the fathers and the mothers, we speak out against these things. And of course, persona non grata. But we are free. Those are the paradoxes.
Yeah, I think Dr. Mattera has answered that question. I just want to throw up one or two images. There's a place called Sandton Square, which is a huge shopping mall, which I think is insofar as Joburg is concerned, that is the center of white capital. And they have built a monument for whom? For Mandela. What used to be Sandton Square is now Mandela Square. What is the meaning of that? What's interesting about that statue is that it's disproportional. Small head, big body. If you've read Ngugi's Devil on the Cross, you'll understand the idea of a leech with a small head, no vision, big body, drinking on the blood of the people. Now, think about that. We've been told Mandela is a saint, he's freed us from this and that and that and that. I don't know. I was growing up believing in this image of Mandela. Who created Mandela? Who was Mandela before he went to prison? Why did we come to a point, in fact, where we thought that when Mandela walks free, we are all free? Who designed that thought? Do you know what I mean? It was the people who own the media in our country, and to some extent we collaborated in that nonsense, right? So we have bought into images that we shouldn't have bought into in the first place. When Mbeki talks about the African Renaissance, this thing of, releasing, South Africa to the continent, what he's talking about really is releasing white capital to eat up the rest of the continent. They are busy building, the Czech assassins, they are busy building shopping malls all over, killing local economies, so that our white capital is free, yes. I don't know about us.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, the story he told you where you go to see this middle class brothers and sisters, you go through the intercom system, and then after dinner, one time I couldn't even leave. Finally, when I finished dinner, I was left to go. I couldn't leave the gate because the intercom and the security guys just held me for over 2 hours. I couldn't leave because there's an amazing middle class culture that is going to shock the world. Those barricades you have to be announced to visit. It's not it's just the whole middle class area barricading themselves from the have-nots. And so when you go in the street, that Greek thing where you go, you tie rope first in case you want to come back. What is it called?
Yes.
Yeah, that's how it looks like. Anyway, that's interesting. Anyway, my sister here. Oh, before you go, everybody, let me just say this. I'm good at this for a reason. For me, I know they're going to be shocked. They paid their way to come here. And I'm going to ask you, Azad, to go around. All of us have to donate to pay them so they can go back and be reimbursed for this pleasure they have given us. And so I'm going to demand on everybody to put in the bucket money for the poets from South Africa. And sister, go ahead. Since people are beginning to leave out like that.
How has globalization affected the influence of elders on your society?
You know that globalization is not something that we, the formerly oppressed and the formerly colonized, it's not our thing. Globalization, I don't even really want to go into it without doing a trustees or doing a dialectical analysis of the situation. It has affected us, it has affected the whole world. The Bushes, the IMF has affected all of us. We fought to have the apartheid loan squashed, and guess who was our biggest opponent? Please guess. South African government. We fought to have the apartheid loan that the apartheid state had borrowed from the IMF, billions. We asked for it. We formed an organization called Jubilee 2000. I was one of the founders. Our biggest foe in all of this is our own government, the liberation government. So globalization has affected us all. It has affected so much so that our country is not just a free market country, it is a free market protagonist. Thabo Mbeki, our president, is invited to all of the G8s, all of the G7s. Because we know what the global leaders and the global forces and global powers want. World capital dominates our lives, dominates what we drink, what we eat, what we wear, the clothes that you guys market to us, your culture that you guys market to us in South Africa. We consume it like you've never seen. In fact, there's a mini America in South Africa. A mini America in South Africa. The Coca-Cola signs are everywhere. The rap has taken off. Our kids don't say, please send a message to the phone. Send a shout out to us. Hey, Don, hey, dude, what you doing? This is our kids. Our radios have been taken over. The airwaves have been taken over. Even a station like Kaya, which plays a lot of African music. Globalization has affected our revolution. It has made us compromise. Our leaders have compromised. I think it's something we must not let you leave this room. Do you know how we love Mr. Mandela? You guys can't believe it. It's like a Jesus who's come amongst us. And if the Jesus said, love thy neighbor as thyself, give thy other cheek to thy enemy, we did exactly that. Globalization has held him and has got our leaders in Africa. They even now fight to be on the Security Council. They fight each other to be part of the gangs who have a veto about something. Globalization has affected the way we eat, we drink, we live, we work. And I can only say this, that the forces of the world, you know, when the tsunami came, sadly, and I say this to you, when the tsunami came to Malaysia, Africans in Kenya also felt it. Other places also felt it. Nobody really spoke for Somalia. Nobody really weeps for Africa. But Africa doesn't weep for itself. Africa doesn't fend for itself. Africa has become another lackey of this world of globalization. Somebody says, the Muslims. Why are the Muslims under siege of the world? Globalization has determined that the new enemy of the world is no longer communism, but Islam. And of course, we are Christians. I mean, we follow the blood of Jesus. Amen. And we do that. So if they say this is the way, then that is the way. Our minds are being taken over. Our books are being taken over. They have this education system melody. What is it? The curriculum 2000. What do they call it? They have another term for it also. That your kids have to face each other when they teach, when they learn. You just have to teach them writing and reading quickly. They must be able to add. Try and get them out of school quickly. And this is globalization. Lots bad is happening. But you know, the human spirit, my sister, is indomitable. And you can crush it in one place, it will emerge in another. I really don't have the panacea for my country. Neither do I think we have the panacea for you. I think, know thyself, find thyself, and free thyself. Maybe that is the way to go.
Thank you. We'll go here. I'll come. I want to go to you, and then I just want to say, by the way, he's Brother Mattera. He's related to you, I think. Somehow, either the plantation owner or something. Your spirits are so aligned and then look alike. I was sitting there saying they're twins. They're Atkins twins here. Okay, your question.
I was wondering if you could speak to the role of poetry and song and cultural expression in general in the liberation
Nanu,
struggle.
where are you going?
It's a field that I've written on. My doctorate is on liberation literature, liberation journalism, liberation religion, liberation song, liberation food, liberation song, liberation, everything is about liberation. And poetry is only one small cog in the wheel of consciousness. And I think the best cog for this wheel of consciousness is the human spirit. You don't have to be a poet to see yourself as being worthy of being a cog in this wheel. I think once you have found yourself, once you know yourself, poetry is only a vehicle for me. It is not the end all and the be all. I think the be all and the end all is human consciousness. That firstly, you are human before you are American. You're even human before you are black. You're also human before you are white. It's just that somebody somewhere has contrived all of this and put us in the field that poetry is a sword. It can help to free the people. It can also be a balm and a poultice to heal the wounds. But let us create the hypothesis that there is no poetry in this village. There are no playwrights in this village. But there are teachers. The teacher holds the key. The conscientized teacher, the teacher who's aware, the teacher who's committed is the pillar of civilization. I think the teachers of the world must come together. They must unite. They must change the curriculum of power, the curriculum of acquisition. They must bring a new curriculum to the children. We Africans speak about cubism, something outgoing. The Europeans have pillars and structures. You could see their poles. Go to Washington, you see their pillars holding up their buildings. Ugly, cold granite that has no blood, that has no feeling. The Parthenon. They want you to admire the Parthenon. They want you to admire. When they come to the pyramids, they tell you it's Egyptology. They don't say it's Africanology. They want to do that. They want to take away from you your right of being. And poetry is one of the small vehicles that can help for you to ascertain your right of being. I am because you are. And this is the cubism that I speak of. I really don't want to talk more. I really want to leave and love you.
Yeah, just a quick observation. One of the spoken word artists, a young spoken word artist in South Africa, puts it this way: I'd rather have proper ganja than propaganda. Right. So, what was he talking about? Right. In my country, I mean, you look at the way, I mean, I think politicians are aware of the power of word, the power of the arts to make people, think outside official containers, if you like. So now they are playing a game, and the game is to co-opt some people. And how do they do that? It's about how funds to the arts are allocated. You see a lot of people getting, not a lot, maybe a handful of people getting millions to do all sorts of stupid things, and that's what makes South Africa. You have I could mention names, but it's not really necessary. But you've seen, a lot of art that comes out of the country, as long as you have these happy Africans beating drums like mad, even if they don't have a rhythm or sense of rhythm. As long as they're beating drums, then this is our culture. As long as they're dancing and smiling, and this is the thing that they want to see, And those people who think differently, they want to squeeze them, and it's about how, funds are allocated to a point where they've created this disease where people have become so dependent on this funding, you see. So people are writing now the poetry of proposals now. I hereby propose to write this poem, whatever and then you get your money and then you go and recite your poem. So I don't know if that is the way to go. I think people need to think that, if you want to change things, you don't need a budget to change things. But now, okay, not that the revolution must wait, there's no budget. That's the kind of stuff that...
I'll come back to you, but Professor Ackland Lynch. Oh, yeah, here first, and then I'll come to you next. Here, go ahead.
Oh, thank you very much for this wonderful experience. But as I reflect on South Africa, I'm wondering about the bleakness of uniqueness. Because people often think of South Africa as being unique in Africa. And therefore lessons that took place in Kenya, Ivory Coast, Tanzania, were not learned or even utilized in South Africa because not only Mandela but Thabo Mbeki and Tutu and Bosaka and others were different people. They approached God in a different kind of way, I guess, and had a different relationship to him, as seen in some of the some of the plays that you had in your conversations with God. My problem with it is that I'm wondering if truth and reconciliation, which is now used as a concept of restorative justice to be applied in Rwanda and Burundi and Liberia and other parts of Africa, as a concept, now puts us, well, it's not here in terms of foreign policy or even in terms of domestic law. Restorative justice is another kind of thing in terms of how that was negotiated. Whether that was really installed to do three things: to get rid of Winnie Mandela, one; to wipe out PAC completely, and to place Thabo Mbeki in a strategic location after the death of Chris Hani, so that he could become the voice of South Africa while Mandela remained the face of the new South Africa. And an appeal was made to the artists as early as 1995, 1996, to not to continue critiques of the government, but rather to join through Truth and Reconciliation and the new dispensation in South Africa to provide a culture and a creative statement for the new South Africa. And that was projected through television, through radio, through music, through poetry, and through theater. And that is where the virus set in. If South Africa is faced with a virus, that is where the essential problem is, because the country refused, and now the people have to take it onto themselves to arrive at their true destiny.
It's one of the best evocations of what is truly the resident problem, and you've articulated well for us. I think we must also say to you that we have seen untold black-on-black violence. We have seen terrible things in our country. And me, Don Mattera, I want to be the last one to spark this. He knows the power. My wife knows the power. My wife knows the power that some of us possess. One wrong word, one wrong phrase can bring it all down. And I think we must work. There must be different ways. You have articulated it, sir. I was a commander, underground commander. I refused to go to the Truth and Reconciliation because, number one, it wasn't the real whole truth. And number one, it wasn't the real true reconciliation. I just need to share this one last poem, and I hope this could be. You know, when you marched with people and you ran with people and you fell with people. I was shot 3 times as a gangster, as a street kid. I was also tortured, terribly tortured in prison. Electrical wires were put in my penis. The others were put in my bum. About 10 times they switched on like you have never seen. I don't know how many times I came, I ejaculated, I collapsed, I vomited blood. Terrible things have gone on. My fingers were broken, my ribs are broken. And people want to talk about the grace of one man, Mandela. My response is, one man, like one tree, does not make a forest. So we really went through suffering, but I want to be the last one, and I will work hard to see that some kind of dispensation, sanity prevails. I and my wife, I work with 153 community-based organizations. I founded for 40 years schools for handicapped children. I have one school named after me, the Don Mattera School for learners with special educational needs. I work with gangsters in prison. I can go on and on and on, because I believe that somewhere along the line, we cannot lose hope. We cannot let all of this lie overwhelm us. We must hold on. We must help to save our country from the lie that is being perpetuated. I say it in South Africa. I say it in America without fear or favor. But I get the old angers come back to me. And this poem says, sometimes I feel an old anger welling up, exhorting me to blind the mocking eyes of history, jerk the deep, stagnant heart of the unseeable, shake the cold train of the unmovable, ask why the gloating bane of avarice now abides among the newly freed, why the once steel faces of heroic stalwarts glows with the fat of greed, why comradeship and trust must die for power, position, and pomp, to so falsify the noble objects of the struggle too, and substantiate for a golden penny the comfort privilege of the few against the misery of the many. Sometimes I feel an old anger welling up. And when I felt it in the old days, I took the gun and I shot. When I felt it in the old days, I took the hand grenade and I put it in a bunch of flowers and I placed it in an arcade. When I felt the anger in the old days, I killed. I can't continue to have this blood on my hands. My own people. So something has to give. And I believe that it will happen. Please don't buy the lie that we hate our leader, that we hate our president. All we say to you, one tree does not a forest make. That's all.
I'm coming to you. Okay.
I want to say for us all, thanks again, because something happened tonight that was very, very important. These two gentlemen, my good friend here, started off by evoking our history. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying this in relationship to the meeting we had on Saturday with the Ethiopian people. He evoked our history and showed us sensitivity to who we are. We must remember when we go to other people's country, how to bring that, rather than start off with what? With our story. And having evoked our history and told us his relationship to us, and the conjunction in history between theirs and his, he allows that humanity to rise to another place. And I hope we will always, as people, whether we're Ethiopian, Caribbean, Brazilian or not, carry this example. So when we go to other people's place, we talk to them about their lives first, and their work and their creativity.
Go ahead, sister.
I would like to thank you as well, because it brings home so much that I guess I wondered about in South Africa. And I wanted to ask about Winnie Mandela, but I think the most important thing is have these handouts lull the people to sleep to the point that there is no more movement to take over economically your country. I mean, there are moves in other countries, in Zimbabwe, you know, where the people are having to force the leaders, you know, look, take the land, take, you know, production. It's our land. And there is no freedom without economic freedom, as you say. Is there any spark
Yes, there is.
still left?
There is.
Well, let me just say something. By the way, I don't know if I'm wrong or right, but I think he's related to Winnie, by the way, this guy here.
Maybe from my grandmother's side. But she is a constant in our life. We worship her, we love her. She remains a constant, and we are not ANC members. You don't have to be an ANC member to see her as a constant, as a star. in the firmament of our dreams. She remains constant.
By the way, I'll tell you this, Winnie is even becoming a better person in the way she's been excluded from power, is making her more a logical revolutionary in the true sense. Because I think the people that are excluded also should know they could have been those guys they're watching. And I think that was a necessary lesson in Africa. Often we want to come to power because we don't really read literature, we don't know what power does. We come in, I think, especially African power is like beginning, always starting. It doesn't learn from the collapse of even, Mobutu. It doesn't learn from the collapse of Haile Selassie.
Yes.
We seem to just start like it's the beginning of everything.
Oh, yes.
And so here is where literature has the power to connect and show the continuity of it. And I think it is then outside, I think Winnie and many people that are excluded, I've known them personally, I've met them, I think they're becoming more
Relevant.
because I think they were human and they could have been casualties of power. But I think they just saw themselves. I think they're seeing themselves in these people, in spite of the personal contradictions, etc., etc. And the other thing is, I think personally, when he hit it, the exile, I think we forgot, black folks always prepare their spectrum, their optic perspective is very limited. Their focal length is like here. And I think the superpowers seem to prepare, from our own narrow lens, they seem to prepare even, and we wake up suddenly. All of us seem to be caught unprepared to the logical struggle that comes about as a logical extension of where we are. And so I think South Africa, I'll tell you, in the end, though I leave depressed, and this guys, by the way, leave me very inspired all the time. That's why I'm sharing them today here. But for me, I know now Africa just finished her last card with South Africa. The last card is played.
Yes.
And I think now the most neglected component that from Guinea-Bissau, Angola, Mozambique, from all the struggle in Africa, the most important thing that we forgot was that we did not bring culturally transformed men and women with, the new humanity never came about.
Yes,
So
Cabral
it
speaks
was
about
the
it.
obscene,
Yes.
what Fanon says about, the other quotation I was talking about. Fanon says it, in a very, weird paraphrasing, he says, Africans, he says, please, I plead with you to not imitate the obscene constructions and institutions of colonialism. History expects better from us. And I think that is a cultural analysis. That's a cultural perspective. And I think that's why I think most intellectuals of Africans are going to begin to read now Fanon for real. Because we read Fanon for the armed struggle, not for the cultural revolution. Because the armed struggle is about the opposition. Cultural revolution is the new man and woman that has to also erupt with new grammar, new experiment, and new mistakes of our own with an imperfect structure. And so I'll tell you, Africa, finally with South Africa, has played its last card. It's finished. I think now the germinating, when you see people like this in South Africa, in U Street, in New Orleans, in places meeting and doing this kind of community, their own notion of the vision of the world, we have it, I think, in there. And so I think the problem here is I don't think we should go back home and be passive spectators. We should be active participants because we too can make history. As history makers, we got to wake up. And so to me, that's very important. Let me just say this. Go ahead.
I just think the addendum to what you say is that the so-called white person must not feel left out.
Mm-hmm.
The so-called white person must know that he is not a white person. Because you never hear a Frenchman saying to an Italian, I'm white. You never hear a German saying to an Austrian, I'm white. Once we can understand that people from Tanzania never tell Kenyans they are black. Because black is a political denomination, a cultural denomination. We must escape it. There must come a time when we are truly liberated from color, truly deracialized, that we don't see the white in people and they don't see the black in us. That day will only come. And whites say, listen, I'm human, here I am. Take me as I am. Don't blame me for my history, and let's help and create a new history. That will come. I really want to.
Yeah, that's good. Well, let me just say 1 second. I will say this. Let me say this. I think this is as a student of my brother, and I'm not opposing, but I'll tell you this. I think to me, for me, the purpose of the Black Cultural Revolution is to create new black people who are capable of forging and defining a new world. And I think white people have to adjust to what I call myself. The problem here is I don't think we have the capital, nor the energy, nor the literature power to convince privileged, blinded white people. I think that sometimes discourages us. Let me just say this. I think, to me, white people have to create their own revolutionaries that we in affinity can congregate at a certain historical time. But now, creating black people who do not give white people the space to be enslaved. That is, I think, the revolution. That black people all over Africa and here have to liberate themselves from giving space to any power. And then in so doing, we enter a more compatible, powerful relationship. For me, I have many white friends that what blinds them is the cholesterol privilege of being white, the trust fund of whiteness. Whiteness automatically, white folks, those who cross the road, there's two, I don't know if you're white, but okay. Our brother there, our friend there, you know, for me, they crossed over. It's like John Brown crossed over.
Oh, yes.
And after that, there is no limit to how things could go. But for that journey to happen, it's a major event. But anyway, let me say this. Let me say this so we cannot lose it. I want to bring first, before we go further, I want to bring the solidarity poets. And I do this because I want you guys to connect to this African students in America, Africans, Afro-Americans, Africans in America. Every Friday in front of this building, they have a poetry event, open microphone. I want them to meet you. And I want them to also, when you meet them, I want to see them in South Africa. I know one of them has been there already. But the way I want it is, I want this poet to go to the South Africa that I have been, to the township of Cape Town, to the township of Joburg. And so for me, it's very, I'm very privileged to bring the open mic gang, Bumari, Omikongo. Is that the two only we have? Okay. Three, Sister Azza. You're a poetry? Okay. Yeah, let me do this. You come, okay. Four, we can afford, we can take four, come on. We should know that, for me, part of my criticism for the poetry in America is it doesn't have often, except in case of these brothers here, especially that one, it doesn't go into a universal consciousness. Because there is, in London, most probably some sister or brother who looks like you doing almost at it. That's what scares me. When you find you look alike, you think alike, you thought cross-dressing or like twinship, it freaks you out. I see it in Brazil, I see it in the Caribbean, I see it in Africa, and I think it's a very important point that Africans in America we should not only know their poetry, they should know our poets. Those who even write in national languages. And I was very happy when Hafele just put that, South African taste of honey, I didn't know what he said, but I just felt good about it. And I think it's very important. We don't have to subtitle him. We just got the gist of it. And I think that is important. Now, my brother, Bumari, take the mic, but I'm telling you, if you don't do what I like, there's one I like, I'm going to ask you later. But I'm just going to wait here what you chose.
All right, cool. What's up, y'all? My name is Bomani Arma. I'm not a rapper. I'm a poet with a hip-hop style. If you want to know more information about me, you can check out my website, www.notarapper.com. Thank you very much, Mr. Garima, for having me here. This is actually a lot of fun. And I hope that my poetry represents my people as much as your poetry does. Something that struck me, before I go into my piece, something that struck me the most was talking about the classes in Africa, in South Africa, the gates and the guards and stuff like that. And and my first thought was like, man, we have the same thing here, but y'all have it like on steroids. And then I was like, no, we have the same thing here. The United States of America has been doing it longer, so we're better at hiding it. But if you look at Washington D.C., the politics, especially Washington D.C. to PG County, D.C. used to not be the place to be. The black people with talent tried to leave and go to PG County. Now they're kicking all the rest of the black people out and they taking them to PG County. Y'all seen what happened in PG County, how they're not able to handle these problems, how we haven't been able to come together as a people, no matter what our classes are, no matter what our educational levels are. And it's something that I've only been able to briefly touch on in my poetry and in my artwork, and I hope to be able to touch on more. But hearing how it's happening in South Africa is like, makes me understand that's something I definitely need to address now before it becomes a bigger thing. Before, instead of actually having the police on the streets, they actually build gates, because that's probably what's going to happen next. All right, the piece I'm going to do before Holly kicks me out of here is a piece that I'm going to need some crowd participation on, all right? Because it has a beat to it. So I'm going to need y'all to clap, okay? Not one of those claps that stop once I get started. I need y'all to keep the clapping going so I keep the beat, all right? So it goes, check it. Hey, look, you're never really satisfied, whether rich or poor. I mean, once you get some, you're gonna want some more. We bear pretty fruit that's rotten to the core. We import drugs and export war. And at the end of the day, what is all of this for? I mean, what matters in the world, baby? I'm not really sure. I say it's Mother Nature, but we treat her like a whore. I say it's God, but we've shown him the door. So tell me why we do this every day. Give up our lifetime for 8 hours worth of pay and try to convince ourselves that it will be okay. Truth is, I ain't happy here, but here is where I stay. So I have to find a way to have peace every day. Sometimes I drink a beer, sometimes I smoke a J. Sometimes I curse and scream, sometimes I kneel and pray. But when I come to Sankofa, this is what I say. You've had a day that was really whack, shake it off. You got too much pressure on your back, take it off. You get in love with strings attached, break it off. It goes shake it off, take it off, break it off. You've had a day that was really whack, shake it off. You got too much pressure on your back, take it off. You get in love with strings attached, break it off. It goes shake it off. Because it's hard to avoid the devil when you're chilling in his lair. But we're not supposed to get more than we can bear. But whoever told you that life was really fair? So for a moment, live life without a care. So baby girl, do what you want to with your hair. Have fun, live a little, take a dare. We stress so much about what we drive and wear, looking for something that isn't really there. We walk around all day feeling we've been cheated. So hearts get cold and arguments get heated. Life can be so sour and we are forced to eat it. Time for a revolution, follow me, I'll lead it. This is for all of those who really feel defeated, who've been abused, misused, and mistreated. I know sometimes your spirit feels depleted. I wrote this one for you cause I know you really need it. It goes, you've had a day that was really whack, shake it off. You got too much pressure on your back, take it off. You get in love with strings attached, break it off. It goes shake it off, take it off, break it off. You've had a day that was really whack, shake it off. You got too much pressure on your back, take it off. You get in love with strings attached, break it off. It goes shake it off, take it off, break it off. So all my people on the right say shake it off. And all my people on the left say take it off. And all my people in the back say break it off. It goes shake it off, take it off, break it off. So all my people on the right say take it off. All my people on the left say thank you. All my people in the back say take it off. It goes shake it off, take it off, make up for it. All my people on the right say yeah. All my people on the left say take it off. And all my people in the back say take it off. It goes shake it off. One more time, all my people on the right say shake it off. And all my people on the left say take it off. And all my people in the back say break it off. It goes shake it off, take it off, break it off. Thank you very much. Sure.
Good evening, everybody. Very honored to be here. Baba Hale's been talking about doing something like this for a long time, so I'm very happy that we've been able to make it happen. I've had the opportunity to visit your country on several occasions, and meet some of your wonderful poets, Mashile and Fila Sister, and Anueli Fosisile. And no doubt, I'd like to take everybody with me. And just the fire, I'm a Congolese American, so My parents raised us in the anti-apartheid movement. At 7 years old, I was passing out flyers in Boston, Massachusetts, and everything. So it's a struggle that was never just you all. As you know, it was an international movement. So I'm just happy to be here to be able to contribute in any way, shape, or form. So, my contribution to solidarity. Ngozi sikeleli Afrika Malupaganisu pandowayo Niswahi mitanda soyetu Ngozi sikelela Thina Lusapolwayo. Free your African mind, my brother. Free your African mind, my sister. Free yourself from those mental chains that say you don't come from that dark continent when ain't no one on the continent darker than you. Realize you've been brainwashed by wicked white men, but your oppression has also been perpetrated by your own brethren. I know that the rapings, castrations, and lynchings are grueling, but the castration of the mind has more longevity than a lynching. You're wrenching further and further away from your motherland. You let them tell you that your slave-inspired slang was Ebonics and not a rich African language of English words, and so you were afraid to speak the word. You believed them when they told you your continent was dark. However, you didn't realize it's because they've been trying to steal her sunlight for centuries. From whitening the ancient Egyptian to whitening Beethoven to whitening Michael Jackson, you've been brainwashed. From slave codes to black codes to Jim Crow, you've been brainwashed. From K1 to cum laude, you've been brainwashed. You see, you want to be American, though America has decided she no longer needs you, while an entire continent pleads for you to come home. So free your African mind. Free those naps suppressed under that process. Free those hips and those tight jeans that only attract negative attention and suffocate your natural nilotic curves. Free those brown, luscious lips from ravishing red lipstick. Brothers, free your kidneys from sipping 40s and sip fresh waters from the Nile Basin. Free yourself from feeling you have to step all over your lady and step with me on my Kilimanjaro. Free your mind and stop trying to free Willie into our co-partner in our fight for liberation. To deny that you're African is to deny your place on earth as the first. Why claim to be a nigger and kill over street corners when you can claim ancient Nubia? Why claim a country when you can have a continent? I speak to all of you in denial, from African Americans to West Indians to even continental Africans. Malcolm and Moccasin Marley died trying to free your minds. Accepting your African blood turns you into a worldwide majority and not a national minority. It stretches your history much farther than Mississippi. It explains why you're as beautiful as you are, why you worship like no other, and why you can never be defeated while standing on the shoulders of God and your ancestors. All of you, rise! You ghetto prisoners who are really Ghanaian princes, rise! You proud to be bitches who are really Burundian princesses, rise! You who think being born on the continent is enough to make you African, rise. Dark-skinned Latinos, rise. Confused Cape Verdeans, rise. Westernized West Indians, rise. Egocentric Euro-Africans, rise. Amnesic Afro-Asians, rise. Almost annihilated Australian Aborigines, rise. Realize, like Bob Marley realized, that being African is a state of mind. And walk with me through that bright African sunrise. And I guarantee your mind, body, spirit, and nation will rise, 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 high as the glistening skies. Just free your almighty African mind. Thank you.
One more. Yeah, there's Azza here. That maroon, that sister from the Gullah Islands. You know, I hope someday she just do some poetry of the divorce of Gullah and Geechee.
I'll work on it. Before I recite the piece called Silent Screams, I want you all to give yourselves a big round of applause. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You, the spirit of African people who are here. Spirit, you came out. We put this together, and you came out and you supported. And you support Sankofa as we are here for you, and we thank you. And you supported in your giving, and we thank you. We thank you. So again, this is just the beginning of our fall series. Please, please make sure that your names and your email addresses and your contact information, we have it so that we can let you know. The sister, for those of you who were here at the beginning and you heard Laini Mataka, we're going to have Laini Mataka Day right here at Sankofa. We're going to have, that's right, Ashe. We're going to have, and Holly is going to talk about this a little bit more, we're going to have community discussions on the art and the artists here in the D.C. area where there are sculptures being erected of great, powerful African people like Carter G. Woodson being erected and being sculpted by European artists. And so we need to have a discussion. We need to have a community discussion. We're going to have those discussions right here at Sankofa. So make sure we have your information so that we can let you know, because of course I left the dates. So we're going to be able to get those things to you. So make sure you have that and leave that information with us. Silent screams. Deep in South Carolina, beyond the bank, the water is still. But along the riverside, further along the shore, I see a body, washed up from the scene of last night's massacre in the woods. I heard him cry out to me in silent screams. I yelled to him that I am working hard to save him, but I am here, in this time, in this place. I told him to hold out a little longer. My strides are getting closer, my bridges a little stronger. I'm seeing you, I told him. I'm reaching for your hand. You've suffered too much now. I'm ready to take control. But it's too late. The disguised murderers burn the rope of his life with their torches. Let him drop to the ground while somehow still reaching for my hand. They're symbols of hope, fire, hoods, hate, destroyed my chance to deliver freedom. I am bitter, but not too disturbed to realize that his tragic ending marked the beginning of my destiny. My mission, as it stands now, is to never forget that night of not so long ago, and to realize that there are many more lives to save in this time, in this place. I hear your call. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ashanafi Waktola. I'm completely nuts after, trying to come out after these people. But the reason I came out is because I wrote a poem, tribute to them, to the people who came from them. So I want to share it with you. I have to read it because...
By the way, he's from Ethiopia, so you make sure we don't play.
Yeah. The other reason, I'm not going to use spoken word. I'm still chained to the paper, so I have to read it. Shall I start from the Amharic one because he likes the Amharic one? So Yemokafinya Bafabalu Fita Tanafto Yakalalo Arrega Derek Marentito Yewata Wardal Saikoita Maliso Begzes should not see what Gatham so. This is what I wrote while listening to these people. Really, really, I'm impressed. Fire in the words. I'm burning. I'm really burning down or up to my soul from the volcano, from the passion, from the inferno buried in the words. The heat in the assembled alphabets. Not the fire next time out of James Baldwin's pen, but it is a fire for now. A fire to wipe out the hypocrisy, the oil-stained democracy, the Halliburton-smeared oligocracy. It is a fire this time to deliver us from the slavery called freedom. A fire of liberation, of a a volcano in the poems, an inferno in the words. I'm drunk out of control. I'm wasted all in all, but I cannot put words together. In spite of my anger, in spite of my hunger to say it out loud like them, to enlighten many in the flame, because I'm chained to the paper, but burning in the fire.
Thank you. Wow. Just wrote that. That's incredible. I just wanted to make an offering from the DC community, a Pan-African offering to both of our esteemed poets of my work, which you see on the flyers there. I do poetry in English and French and Swahili. And I just wanted, as a token of our appreciation, to give you all, samples of our work, CDs, DVDs, as well as literary forms to take back with you all, and just, a physical token of our appreciation in addition to the funds and everything that are being collected. So, thank you.
Okay, this is Fiona. You just saw her sneak in, and she wanted to announce an event. It's going to be Thursday, 13/05 at 8 p.m. at Duke City. Especially, you Ethiopian young folks in the back, you better be there, because she's saying she's doing fundraising to do her film, and she would like people to come in and support her at Duke City. Please do that. I know the Ethiopian gang will be there, my sister. Let me just say a few things. First, for all of you, and sincerely, all of you, you all brought your spirit, and we thank you, because I think above all of it, you came, you brought your energy, your magnetic soul and spirit, and they're going to remember you. And these are not people, limelight people. I don't deal with limelight people, because they don't live beyond, yes. And so for me, these are real people, community people. And when you go, you're going to look for them. In Joburg, in Cape Town, Pretoria, they will be there somewhere reading, and you will know and look for them. And so I want to thank you for, I'm not really good at this. I wish Tariq was talking. But the other thing is, I just want to say to my brother Mattera here, because he's been in the forefront of the struggle, and I have to say something we owe him. He's a humanist. He was in the forefront of the struggle. He wants to know we are humble. We want to guarantee him and assure him that we do not become monsters because of the monstrosity, or the monsterness of the system, or the racism, or whatever. We are, I think, a different generation who understand that we do not allow our people to be racist, especially in the kind of film work and things we do. And I don't usually say this to white people, because I just let them suffer, because I don't like to explain myself, because I think I'm a humanist. But white people are too spoiled to always be assured I'm not really a dangerous person. I'm a very nice person, especially after I made Sankofa. I've just become a very, and then also after having 5 kids with Tariq, I've become a human being, because I'm thinking of my children. In fact, in his poetry, I thought about my kids, because I was having a hard time now in my life letting go of my kids. And he was telling me they're not mine today. And I just felt very, very even empowered about letting go of my children. And so for me, it was therapeutic, personal. And I want to assure you, my brother, I don't care about you, by the way. So I'm not going to explain nothing to Hafele, because he got to just decode it from there. But I want you to know very clearly from my heart that we do not allow ourselves to be monsters due to our experiences. But, we have to know that something, and that is that we have to create a space to work out our imperfections. And sometimes maybe our language could worry, but I know, for me, I want you to be rest assured when you go to South Africa that we do not tolerate racism as a reverse tool, because I think that itself paralyzes. We believe in alternative tools. If we want to invent alternative tools to combat the new reality, if we want to do that, racism, I think, will paralyze us. And so I know it's from experience. You wanted to let us know to make sure we do not become monsters in the image of the oppressor. But I assure you, we push a humanist value. My wife and me do not, for example, allow this place as a political, dogmatic rallying place. We want imperfect cultural processes to take place. And so I want to let you know, and especially this old man would not join us if we were like that. But I think it is because we want to construct a space where black people could be imperfectly explore and free themselves from a potential entrapments. And so I really want to say that. It's out of this event, I want to say that, my brother. I want to assure you. Yeah. And for me, Hafele, I want you to know, when I first in Joburg sat down, I was crying. For me, my whole problem is, I don't know, Professor Cham remembers, I finished Sankofa, and then I think he was a moderator somewhere at the Smithsonian, and they asked me to speak there, and I was crying. And because it was like 9 years of so many things in that day. And so one of my students, just went, man, Garima cried. Garima cried. And it amazed me that he said that. I heard him in the hallway. Garima, man, he just broke and cried. And I was very, very happy that apparently he didn't know I was human, because he always has seen me as a warrior. And so I was again in South Africa, when I spoke in South Africa, the way I believe in things. And then these people who took me didn't know what happened to me, because I was sitting there crying in that poetry session you did in Joburg. He had a one-man show, and he had a Stephen Biko poster, and he had 5 instruments or 6 instruments. For 2 hours, he had South Africans all over the floor, crying, laughing, and embracing each other. And I think that's the power, this young guy. And it's like, have you seen like Heru? We asked him to come, he's not here. Because sometimes some people look twins. You start to look, you look at these guys, the way I meet them. But I've seen somebody in South Africa who look like them, who looks like who. And so these are actually special tribes, because African people, it's the drummers, the poets, the sculptors, oh, I'm sorry, my young brother. It's me, I think. It's just this again, where he's crying. I think he's crying for me. So to me, I think it's very critical to understand that art has a healing effect. And I believe across fences, art has the capacity, but we can't contain the poison and not release it through expressions. I think better than killing, poetry is better. To fantasize even killing. If there's the poison there, get it out of, through poetry. Now, the things we're trying to do here, the Woodson Carter, we don't want people like, for example, I am not against white people doing a statue on Woodson Carter or slavery. My wife and me, 10 years or 15 years, I'm getting old, by the way. Many years ago in Detroit, somebody sponsored the Holocaust to be a statue or a monument made for the Holocaust. And what happened at that time was that they chose a white artist. And for me, this misses a very important issue of the healing idea. For me, in poetry and artwork and sculpture, when the pained person goes through the motion of building a monument to for the dead, for the uncried millions and millions of Africans that is up to now, nobody has shedded a tear yet. No monument. When I was driving all over the South many times, and I see all these monuments for white soldiers and things, and yet there's not one single tribute to Africans who died in millions. And what it does is it holds society hostage. hostage. Psychologically, it creates guilt-ridden and shamed people. And in fact, South Africa illustrated this for me. In South Africa, I felt there was two societies who came out of a mental institute and don't want treatment. Because to me, you cannot be a South African, white or black, and come out of that historical experience and not have a need for mental healing process. Allowing the artists, the poets, the unpopular, whatever their poetry and picture and painting is, to allow them to say it enables all societies to journey through them into a healing phase. And so for me, to censor the healers, to put them in jail, to continue to tag them and tailgate them, their movements, and scan where they are, is a tragic. It's some like refusing to be healed. And so to me, it is very important an African American woman or a man puts a monument, because the community, through that African American, through that art, collectively, communally experiences a healing process. So to me, to deny me to put a monument for all those Ethiopians who died in airplane gas, mustard gas, and not to allow me is not to allow the healing take place. So our thing is not racism. We want an African artist in America, because when a white puts the statue, two societies remain divided. Because it is saying that Africans are unable to transform using this as a process. So for me, we have to be greedy on that. The films we have to make. The monuments we have to make. In doing so, our community who looks like us transforms through that journey. So it's not out of, out of hate or racism. No. When I did Sankofa, one thing I learned across the United States was the fact that African Americans were not intimidated. I made it. I came from Africa to made it. Muta Baruka, the night before we started shooting in Jamaica, he said, I don't know, Andrew, if you remember, he said, everybody spoke, we had a party. We didn't know what we were going to face, a whole monster. The movie just kicked everybody's butt. But he said, for me, I'm in this film because not the money, it's not anything. What is this in this crazy Ethiopians who come from Africa and is dealing with something we're afraid to deal? I'm fascinated by that, and I am in it to see what the hell is this thing all about. And so for me, I think we enable Africans in poetry, in sculpture, monument, painting, drama, movies. We allow our people, because when a white makes it, defense takes place, guilt and shame barricades itself in its own psychological encampment and no resolution. That's why the United States, to date, had not resolved the race issue. Well, all Iraq, Japan, bombing Japan, deeply, most neurotic white Americans in power know their weak link are African people because their interest has not been met. It is like any stupid person can tell, looking at black people, that the United States has failed. Whatever it advertises, you just look at the conditions of black people in South Sea, in the North Carolina, Sea Island, in those islands, no electricity and water to date, and talk about Africans helping the world. So to me, guilt prevents white people from making that necessary threshold, passing that. Now in South Africa, I said to them, to me, all of you are psychologically affected by what happened. Therapy should be in process now. All of you should confess to each other in your poetry, in your art, to help these societies come through. I was like, a minister even challenged me. She says, why do you live in America? If you think like this, why are you living in America? I told her, because I don't want people like you to have power over me. I hate the snow in America. For Bush, I'm a fly. He doesn't care about me, but I know if you had me here under your power, under your jurisdiction, you will smash me like a roach. And I wouldn't give you that pleasure to you or to my Ethiopian kings. And so to me, I'm a hiding man in America with my citizenship and waiting for the revolution, really, the revolution of the African people. And so for me, we Africans are mentally, starting with myself, I'm not talking about mentally affected people. Therapeutic need is fundamental, because we cannot deny we go through so much like many simple things that are normal, we fight with ourselves. We have not reconciled our image, our look, our nose, our lips, our hair deep down. I tell my students the most oppressed thing in the world is black people's hair. And I say, why don't you do a movie about black people's hair rising against black people, meeting to kill black people? Because that's imagination. You just create all the hairs of black people, all the texture, meeting at night, the way black people, maroons, met and say, what should we do about this people? They conk me, they burn me, they do so much shit. Whatever they're tripping, I'm suffering. And we should make a revolution against black people so we will be left alone in the way we are, whatever the shape it is. And so to me, our psychological need is not a bad thing. Coming out of 400 years of demented, disfigured legacy, we deserve to have therapeutic journey. And so let us not hate the artists. The artists do the job of transformation. They give us the opportunity to jump over that cliff that we all individually need. Therefore, we have to fight for our artists in our image to make not a perfect, an imperfect monument for all those millions who have died. We have to be greedy about that because it depends. It is our pharmacy. It is our clinic. That is how we heal ourselves. And so please, we're going to have a meeting here on the issue of who is to make the monument of Woodson Carter. You know, they wouldn't even let him a one-day African Day, African American Day, Black History Month. To date, I'll go all over America lecturing on February, and black kids are intimidated to have just 1 month and the whole 360 days, to have 1 month, all these white people intimidated because 1 month. Why shouldn't it even be 360 days? A whole year? Because to me, white Americans don't need 1 month, 1 day. It's a 360-day celebration of white power in silent postures. No, forget here. Look at the galaxies. Who have they named it after? There's nothing left for us to call Du Bois Saturn, you know. It's all Greek and Roman and everything, and Washington and Jefferson. And then we want to have a monument of our people, that people fight us toe-to-toe. And I don't want to go into our personal. We know Ackland knows what's happening to us. That's what we're building. We're doing an artwork of African revolutionaries on the wall, next wall, because it's my wall. It's because of incident. An incident. And I should tell you, in this community we are in, 99% black people living. 3 white people moved in. This summer, black kids who have no summer to go took this. It was literally a peeing wall. Howard owned this parking lot, and people come to pee and throw their garbage on. A sister said, we should clean, we live here. She cleaned it, put water, tires, plants. Fantastic, we said, all of us who didn't do nothing. Next thing, black kids put drawings, images of themselves. Black people, black family, they put on the wall their images. And then we were called to a meeting because the 4 white people who live in our block don't want to see black people there. So we went, and my wife and me just went. We should have had our camera. The white woman just started the meeting. You know, I can't open my door every day and have to see this black thing here. If you guys are inclusive and consider us community and remember, why don't you just put flower? Why black faces? We were shocked, and we told them, hey, you kids put your own image, it's normal. All human beings put their own image, it's normal. And let everybody have to come in grips with it. No, white folks wrote Howard because Howard owned that parking lot. Howard University, I've been here at Howard 30 years. Howard never has, to this day, changed the bulb in my office. I literally have dead lamps. Nobody had come to change. They've never given me a desk. I've always scoundred the desk, a chair, professor, tenured. Painting to elevator never worked, especially I recognize after, like Ackland had my surgery, now I need elevators badly. It's always broken. We sign letters and letters, all of us signing nothing. Howard doesn't do nothing for black students or us, anything. This white woman's letter went to Howard. They painted it white. And the white woman came out and thanked them for painting it white. And we lost the war. So I retreated to my own wall. Howard and me are going to have a debut in this wall. They're going to see the ghosts of black people. But I'll tell you, you should struggle. You should struggle. You should struggle. You cannot be a passive spectator. You can do a poetry, a book club in your own context, in your own basement. Ackland has in his own basement, more like meetings after meetings in his own basement. And there's a meeting coming up. I don't want to announce it, but whatever you want to go, I'll let you talk to me and him, because I don't want the whole world to come and then Ackland kicks my butt. But you should create your own basement for communal discussions. Don't wait for us to call you. And so thank you very, very much. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you, Hafele. Thank you, Professor Mattera, Don Mattera, my grandfather. And the books are there. Hafele's books are there. Thank you again. Thank you, my brother.